Hello fellow YouTubers, in this video I'm going to be doing an installation guide for Z97 platform. In this video I'm going to be using Cooler Master CM6903 mid-tower case, very nice and very capable case. I'm going to be putting my ASUS Maximus 7 Hero motherboard. I had the Gene before. I'm going to be using my old Seasonic SS660km power supply, which is fully modular, as you see. Cables are over here. I'm going to be using Cooler Master 212 CPU because, the CPU cooler, because my actual CPU is nothing else but Intel Xeon 1230 V3. About that later in the performance review. Here's my crucial SSD, which is MX100. So there you go, MX100, and it's 256 gigabytes, and it's actually around $100, so not that expensive. I'm going to go with the Kingston HyperX Fury Black memory, DDR3, 1866 megahertz, 2 by 8 gigabytes, and also, last but not least, ASUS Republic of Gamers GTX 760 Striker graphics card, which has 4 gigabytes GDDR memory that will be needed in some games, especially if you're running high textures. And obviously, I'll be using my old LG, I think it's 21-inch IPS monitor, along with my creative speakers that I also did an unboxing on my channel. So everything is done in terms of unboxing on my channel, so you can view that. And yeah, let's get started. So first things first, before you do anything, obviously you need to ground yourself properly. If you don't use this grounding kind of strap to put on your wrist and ground yourself properly, use something else, but do ground yourself. Next thing, before anything, obviously we're going to be assembling things into the motherboard, and then we're going to be testing motherboard, plugging in power supply literally on the bench here. Then we're going to be putting everything into the case just to be sure that everything works before we do it. So let's get started. Now, first things first, because I'm installing the aftermarket cooling solution like this, I'll be mounting my bracket on the back of the motherboard. Now, this is LGA 1155, so it's going to be mounting like this. So these feet that go down like that, they would be going literally flush with the motherboard, not the other way around. Now, this is a sticky material and it's gonna stick to the motherboard pretty well, but never mind that. And obviously, once installing, I'm gonna be putting these screws from the other side and securing everything with these bolts. So it's a bit flimsy how everything works. If you want to have a look at that, I've already done the installation of the same CPU cooler into similar platforms, so have a look at that. But I'm gonna go with the forward of the video, and we're gonna come back when backplate is installed and when we're gonna be applying the thermal paste and installing CPU and whatnot. So I'll see you then. Okay, so the standoffs are installed, and as you can see, the backplate is installed as well on the back with the bolt securing it. Next thing, we're going to be installing the CPU. Now, to install the CPU, first what you need to do is you need to remove the cover that comes on the motherboard. So that's going off. Next thing, you press this latch down, lean it to the side and release it, and that's it. And then all you need to do is just push it back, and that lifts the whole thing. Then you lift it back to insert the CPU. The CPU of choice, as I mentioned, is Intel Xeon 1230 V3 for lots of different reasons, in which I'm not going to go in this video, but anyway. Now, to install it, everybody goes with a golden triangle and whatnot. There is an even simpler thing. These cutouts here on the sides actually are the same as on the motherboard. So what you do is you simply gonna drop it onto the motherboard socket, make sure it's secure, don't push it, don't wiggle it, no force required. Next thing, you're simply gonna lower it, this bracket, and put it down like this, nothing else. And then you're gonna push it down, to the side and under the same thing. And that's it. That's your CPU installed. Next thing, CPU cooler, obviously. Alright guys, next thing is installing the actual heatsink. And this is the least liked part for me in terms of the whole process, because it's very flimsy. Now first, you need to make sure you adjust these outside screws basically, and they have to perfectly align with your fittings on the motherboard that you just installed. Now obviously make sure you do that before you install it, because after that it's a bit flimsy to change that. And also these heat sinks, they are not the most sturdy things in the world, so do take good bit of care when you're installing it. It's very easy to bend these fins. So just before we install it, we need to apply thermal paste. In terms of thermal paste, there's so many methods, but most common is the size of a pea right in the middle, and that's plenty guys. Because remember, thermal paste just need to fill the gaps in between, the basic imperfections between here and the CPU itself. CPU is well polished. Here we have some micro gaps in between the heat pipes. However, as I mentioned just now, they are micro gaps. You drop this thing in between and you literally just drop it. You don't pay too much attention because you're going to secure it in a minute. And then you look from the down below and you make sure the most important thing for you is to align the actual heatsink onto the CPU. The rest is history. And if you drop it nicely enough, we all set. And I think in this case, I did not too bad. So okay, next thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to secure these screws on all four edges. Basically what we do is we go with this, that, and so on and so forth. So basically like in this pattern. And next we're going to apply the fan back again. Okay, so the heatsink installed. It's nice and tight there on the motherboard, and it's also properly facing. Next thing, I'm going to install the fan. Now the fan installation is very easy. In this case, just like most heatsink fans, the way to install it is basically you clip it on one side, take it nice and easy, don't put too much force, and make sure it clips on the both ends. If it does, you just reinstall the heatsink fan. So we have heatsink and we have a fan installed. Next we can connect the fan to CPU fan header. So you have basically a 4-pin connector, and you have 4-pin connector on the motherboard. And once you plug it in, it looks something like so. And that's your CPU cooling installed. So next, before you can do anything with the system, you obviously need to install some RAM. And I have Kingston Fury RAM here. Make sure you ground yourself, whatever way you're doing it. You take one of the sticks, make sure it's ready. Now the notch on the stick has to match the notch on the motherboard, and you just simply load it in. And because these ones are not moving, you can do this side first and you can do the other side as well. Make sure it's nice and tight. Now to be sure, the connection has to be flush, so you can not see pretty much any of connectors off the RAM, and see, just as I said. So the connectors of your RAM module, which are these golden connectors, should not be seen if properly installed. And you do the same with another RAM module. Now this is a dual channel mode, so I'm going to be installing 2 black first. And if you also have more memory, you can go with the red as well. Now memory color doesn't really matter. The reason I'm choosing memory color black, because I want it to match on the motherboard. And that's pretty much it. Now the CPU installed, the memory installed, and we can start the system. However, this particular system does not, I repeat, does not have a graphics card. So obviously to properly test it, we need to install a graphics card as well. And to do that, because I have fully modular power supply, I'm going to attach whatever cables I need to the motherboard and the graphics card. So motherboard would obviously need this connector here for the ATX. It would need the CPU connector, which is this particular one here, 8-pin. And obviously eventually I'll need the PCI Express, I believe 2 8-pins or 2 6-pins. And just to show, this particular one needs an 8-pin and a 6-pin. So I'm gonna get all these power cables connected to the components first and then to the power supply. Now, so I have all the power required: one CPU power, one motherboard power cable, and just for the ease of it, I haven't installed the graphics card yet, 2 cables for the graphics card. To load the graphics card, just make sure there's nothing protecting your graphics card, because these pins are usually coming protected by simple plastic shield from the factory, just like SLI bridges. And after you installed graphics card, which is ideally not to be installed, in all fairness, in the motherboard like this, it's to be installed in the case, but anyway, just for the sake of trying it out. And then obviously we have to connect them. So we have GPU power, so PCI Express, we find one here, PCI Express, load it in. As you see, everything works basically as you see. If it doesn't fit, means you plug it in incorrectly. And this is how it would look on power supply. So power supply side, everything is connected as well. So yeah, last bit of touch there. We're gonna plug in the live cable. And first things first, on the motherboard like that, as you see, some lights would light up here. I don't know if you guys can see it. There's a power button, and obviously just for fun of it, I'll connect the HDMI. And we have a monitor running. So there's a start button, start it up, everything starts. As you see, the fans are spinning here, the CPU fan is spinning as well. The power supply stopped because it's not using enough power for the power supply to run basically its fan. Some code, I don't know guys if you can see it running there, basically the motherboard is checking itself. And here we go, Republic of Gamers logo, monitor switch is on, we can see everything. So CPU works, RAM work, graphics card work, and motherboard work on the basic level, as well as power supply. Happy enough. Next, into the case. Okay, next I cleared up my desk, I took out the graphics card, unplugged all the power cables, and removed 2 thumb screws from the case side, removed the side of the case so we could access everything inside. Next thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to install the power supply there. There's only 4 screws securing from the back. I'm going to show you once it's installed. And see this is standoff for the motherboard. These come included with your case when you purchase one. So I'm going to install the standoffs for the motherboard, and I'm going to show you what they do in a second. Alright, so in this case, I installed the standoffs over here. As you see, they're all in place. This 5, 6 in total, as there should be. Now, one last thing, before installing motherboard, there has to be a I/O shield installed as well in the back. Power supply is already installed and secured. Cables hanging off there, cables hanging off here, cables everywhere. But that's okay, we're going to do cable management in the end. So first, I/O shield, then I'm going to lower the motherboard into I/O shield and onto standoffs, and we're ready to go. Now, that's how I/O shield looks like. Now in this case, it's very nice I/O shield, so I better not mess it up. And all you need to do is simply push it in, and once it's done, it's done. I/O shield is installed. Sorry guys, I can't really show it to you properly, but trust me, it is installed. And next we lower the motherboard. So I hold it on the CPU and a little bit on the CPU cooler and a little bit on the motherboard. And I put everything into I/O shield and drop it on the standoffs. And then I make sure that all the standoffs where they should be. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Here goes my maths. 9 standoffs installed, and they all in the holes where they need to be on the motherboard. Next, I'm going to use screw something like that, probably in the finer thread. I'm going to have a look in the motherboard bag there. Sorry, not motherboard bag, actually case bag of all the screws. And I'm going to make sure that it's secured. Alright, so everything's done. Next thing, actually, when you're installing the components inside of the computer case, you can actually connect live power cable, but make sure on your power supply the switch is set to off. So as you see, nothing lights up, nothing like that, but you have a proper grounding. So pretty much whatever I need is installed. Everything is the way I want. Next is graphics card. So I removed 2 covers off the back of the case. Take my graphics card and load it up. Now this motherboard is great because there's plenty of space between the CPU cooler and the graphics card slot. And then obviously I'm going to use 2 screws here to secure that. Next, remember the way I had everything connected, all the power cables? I'm going to connect all the power cables, and we're going to come back after that's done, because we still have to connect the storage unit, and that's going to go on the other side of the case, on the back of the motherboard. So stay with me. And I'm back. Actually, today is another day, and I have done some adjustments last night, simply because my camera actually died while filming. And instead of waiting for it to recharge, I actually did some work. So as you see, first things first, I have another drive installed, and I have another drive plugged in already. I'm going to go through all the details in a second. So the cabling, as you see, is much tidier. I still have most of the panels removed. These cables, I tucked them in a little bit so I could make them tighter on this side. As you see, all these cables are now going, and they are kind of semi-nicely routed. I have my SSD on. Now for SSD, actually, I'm just going to show you in a sec. What I've done is I already mounted the rubber grommets. So as you can see, it can be removed. And the rubber grommets, basically, you put the grommet on and you just bolt it in with the provided screws. And they would look like so. So they're sticking out a little bit. Unfortunately, Crucial does not have any logo here, so you cannot see anything about the drive except this side, which actually just mounts like so, and it's very secure, actually, surprisingly secure. You could even mount mechanical drive, actually. Also, from my old build, I got a couple of these covers for my power cable for the drives. I still have to find another one, so because I simply don't want the power cables to be hanging out loose like that. Also, I hope you guys can see it. Here's the audio cable, and it's actually, there is just about enough space to route it through the power supply. So if I would to turn around, if you look at the top of the power supply, actually there's a small gap. It's very hard to see even when the cable is not there. But if you to move power supply, take the cable in and put the power supply in, you can actually have that cable there. In terms of hard drive, from the bottom, there's 4 screw holes. You just mount it like that. Very simple, very easy. Also, I did a big bummer there the other day. I actually didn't look at how the fan was supposed to be mounted, and I simply mounted the fan without looking at the airflow. And guess what? This is the correct mounting, so not on this side, on that side. And also, now the fan will be taking air and pushing it out. So basically, the air comes in, goes through the components, goes through there, goes out, and goes up as well, and goes out. So for those of you who are interested in better airflow, it would be obviously beneficial to have few fans on the top. However, because of the CPU I'm using and because of my general use, I think I'll be okay. We'll get down to nitty gritty. So I have connected the cables that connect basically to the front, so to the audio inputs in the front, and to the USB. And this is for, sorry, this is for audio input, this is for USB, this is actually just for power buttons, LEDs and such. Power supply is connected, the drive is connected with one SATA cable, and another drive is connected with SATA cable as well. Now, unfortunately, the motherboard includes angled cables, so it's a bit awkward. So next, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna finish tidying everything up, because everything is pretty much installed and everything is plugged. And I'm going to show you how everything looks like and how the lights on the motherboard looks like on the graphics card and so on and so forth. So stay tuned. Alright, so that's the whole thing assembled and the case door closed. Next thing, I'm actually going to open the case door. I'm going to show you a few things inside. Alright, so here we have it. I actually also put a drive cage there and I put in my second drive because I don't have my NAS set up just yet. So that's how it would look like with the two drives installed in front. The SSD is behind the motherboard tray. By the way, SSD temperature is actually quite okay. It's around 35 degrees-ish. So that's pretty nice. Obviously, there's some airflow going in there as well. Other than that, nothing really to say there, guys. As you see, cable management looks really nice. I did have to reverse the CPU cooler, so put it on the right side because that's where it should be pushing the air from. So it pulls from the right, pushes it through the heatsink to the left and exhausts it through the exhaust fan. You see all the LEDs there. I'm going to try to switch off the lights and show you how it looks like at night. And if it doesn't work, we actually have to go with the picture shot. So just one sec. Now, I don't know if there's anything at all visible to you guys. So just in case it didn't actually work, obviously we'll have to do it manually, just show you a picture how it looks like. You also probably see the backlit keyboard in front of it, so that's the Microsoft keyboard, and the mouse in the background. Mouse probably won't be that visible, but overall I must say the motherboard, the graphics card and everything else looks pretty nice. Very nice case, by the way, guys. Big thanks to Hardware Canucks who did the overview of this case, so thumbs up to them. Don't forget to have a look at their channel for their videos and for this case unboxing as well. And yeah, guys, that pretty much sums up my build. I definitely love the red and the black accents in the case. Not so much with the gold on the power supply, but most of that won't be seen. So yeah, I hope you liked the video. If you did, click the like and subscribe. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section down below. And thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.